What's good, internet? Jake here, dumb as ever, and I love weird little guys. And I especially love weird little transforming guys. I grew up with Transformers Armada, and I love the inclusion of the Minicons so much. While I was alive during the Beast Machines and RID-01 eras of Transformers, I think I only gained consciousness once I watched the first episode of Transformers Armada. For those unfamiliar, Transformers Armada is a cartoon and toy line from 2002, and the main focus of the show was the Autobots and Decepticons fighting over Minicons, little robots that can massively augment a Transformer's power when combined, and can also unlock special attacks for them. I had such a good time with Transformers Armada as a kid, and it was probably my most complete line of action figures. I had so many Minicons, man. They were easily my favorite part of the line, and in general, I kind of remember playing with them more than the actual Transformers they came with. And dude, the value was insane. You got both a regular Transformer and a Minicon with every single release. And when Armada ended and it was replaced by Energon, I was so sad. At that point, I wasn't used to the constant rotation of products American toy lines like to do, so I was really confused by Armada ending. Energon gets a lot of hate, but it did have some cool toys. But the gimmick was so much worse than Minicons. Instead of a whole other little robot, you would just get these Energon stars. And I mean, they look neat, but a little piece of plastic that I would lose as soon as I opened the toy versus a whole other play experience is not a fair fight. In this video, I want to talk about some of my favorite Minicons that have been released from Armada onwards. If you like Minicons as much as I do, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me against that evil old algae rhythm. In Armada, there were two ways of getting Minicons. You could either get them through buying a larger Transformer, or you could buy a 3-pack that featured a themed team of Minicons. For example, this is the Adventure Minicon team, with Dune Runner, Iceberg, and Ransack. Iceberg is a good Transformers name, but it just makes me think of lettuce. This team of Minicons in particular have gears in their chests that activates little moving parts, like Dune Runner's turret that will sway around. This is actually a feature that works with a larger toy, the Decepticon Cyclonus, as that figure has a place for them at the bottom of his helicopter mode. And if you pull the trigger on his tail, his propeller will spin and the Minicon's action features will activate. I'm not sure how helpful Iceberg Lettuce is though. The Destruction Minicon team has the same gimmick, and I like the team much better because I had it as a kid. I've never been into drilling alt modes, but Drillbit is the one exception for me. Maybe because he ends up with a big old drill arm. Just like the Adventure team, these Minicons can combine with Cyclonus, meaning that at least 7 Minicons were designed with Cyclonus in mind, because no other Armada figure has this gimmick. There are a few teams that are really underrated in my opinion, and one of them is the Street Speed Minicon team, which is a pretty simple set of cars, but I just think they're so solid. I love the colors and robot modes they end up with. My favorite is Backtrack, a green little dude that turns into a slick car that almost reminds me of the Batmobile. Another awesome team is the Sea Minicon team, which consists of a bunch of boats, which if you're a Transformers fan, you know is a rarity. So 3 solid little boats are awesome, and they all have firing missiles, because every team kind of has their own gimmicks. Some gimmicks are even based on some old ideas in the franchise, like the Minicons that can transform into weapons. Now these are actually triple changers, meaning they have a robot, vehicle, and weapon mode. These weapons definitely vary based on how much they actually look like something. The Minicons had so much care and thought put into their design. The toys could have just been little guys, but they really went the extra mile to give all of the Minicons unique gimmicks. The most iconic gimmick of the Minicons, though, is combining. A huge part of the cartoon is the Autobots fighting over Minicons that combine to create incredibly powerful super weapons. The Requiem blaster literally kills Smokescreen in one shot. Yes, I know he comes back like one episode later, but man, it's still crazy. The only weapon I personally have is a repaint of the Saber, which is formed by the Air Defense Minicon team. In the show, this is the first super weapon that is found, and both the Autobots and Decepticons use it as a weapon for long periods of time in the show. The original version has amazing colors, and I love the use of clear plastic, but the toys use way too much of it, especially for important pieces that could break, because clear plastic tends to become more brittle with age. I have the repaint that turns the Saber into the Dark Saber, which is not a real thing, but it's basically meant to represent the Saber when the Decepticons use it. It also doesn't have any clear plastic, so it's a lot safer from breaking. The star of the show is of course the Saber itself, which is very cool to look at. As a functioning toy though, it kinda falters. It's big and long, which is awesome for a sword, but also makes it really difficult for other figures to hold it. Even if you find a toy that can hold it reliably, the actual connections between the Minicons is not that great, especially where the hilt and blade connect. The blade is just heavy, being made out of two dudes, and the connection to the hilt is so thin. I couldn't possibly hate on it though. It's still such a cool toy and idea, even if it didn't work perfectly. The Requiem blaster and Skyboom shield seem to work better, probably because blasters and shields are just a bit easier to make structurally sound. The Requiem blaster is cool and all, and I appreciate that there is a satellite transformer on the team, but it is just a blaster, which is fairly standard in a Transformers arsenal. What I think is really cool is the Skyboom shield. It's probably my favorite of the super weapons. I think I mostly like it because Smokescreen uses it a lot, and he's my favorite Autobot in the early parts of the show. The Skyboom shield is ironically comprised of 3 different car Transformers, including one named Mirage, who looks and transforms in a shockingly similar way as Starscream's Minicon named Swindle. They are actually 2 different toys though, they just share the same engineering. And you wouldn't be able to replace Mirage with Swindle on the Skyboom shield because he doesn't have the right ports. The absolute best Minicon combiner is the Street Action Team. These Minicons, Highwire, Grindor, and Sure Shock, are the human main character's companion Minicons, and are the first ones we meet in the show. Since the show came out in the peak extreme sports era, Highwire and Grindor transform into a BMX bike and skateboard respectively. Of course, they're still Transformers, so Grindor isn't just a skateboard, he's like a rocket-powered skateboard. Carlos was rocking the electric skateboard way before Casey Neistat was daily vlogging. Sure Shock turns into a Vespa, which I don't think is a sports vehicle, but still really unique, and is the only Vespa Transformer I can think of. I love these guys so much, it's not even funny. I'm so nostalgia blind. I can't even give reasonable criticism. They are just a great set. And the individual robots aren't even the best part. These 3 awesome little bots can combine into one even cooler robot named Perceptor. Sure Shock becomes the legs, Grindor becomes the body, and Highwire forms the head and gives Perceptor some bat kibble. And that's not a bad thing. The bat kibble with Highwire's wheels really fills out Perceptor's silhouette. I love Perceptor's head. It looks like he's wearing snowboarding goggles, just adding to the extreme sports aspect of the character. There's a light blue that runs throughout all 3 Minicons that really melds the robots together in combined form. The biggest shock of color is Sure Shock's orange, but it's segmented in a way that makes it kinda look like Perceptor is wearing really flashy orange boots. Like most Armada toys, Perceptor isn't very posable, but he can at least pull off this Kamen Rider kick. Speaking of dudes who ride motorcycles, Armada Sideways actually comes with 2 Minicons. Sideways and his 2 sons, Rook and Crosswise, is a great figure with many amazing features. In robot mode, Rook or Crosswise can transform into a new face for Sideways. Plugging the Minicon's head into the top of Sideways' noggin and tucking the arms into his chest causes his faction switching gimmick, revealing either an Autobot symbol with Rook or a Decepticon symbol with Crosswise. This is an incredibly cool gimmick, and it works just how it does on the show, and Sideways generally just looks better with a Minicon head, though his little horns are weird to pose sometimes, and I really don't know the most accurate configuration. This is also just like another old Transformers gimmick called Headmasters. I never really thought about how many other toy lines the Minicons reference. The real fun begins when you switch Sideways to motorcycle mode, because Rook and Crosswise can actually combine into a rider for the motorcycle named Mir. This is an amazing play feature. Motorcycle Transformers almost never have a rider. Speaking of riders, is this a freaking Kamen Rider reference? I don't know, probably not, but Mir does kind of have big eyes. Another example of a Headmaster situation, and an even better one than Sideways, is Overload, whose head is literally a Minicon. In terms of motorcycles, I also like Minicon Nightbeat, who is Sideswipe's partner. He has a really derpy look to him in robot mode, but has a super badass motorcycle mode. I like that both of his arms are literally just wheels. Another one of my favorites is Scavenger's Minicon Rollbar, who turns into this cool white dune buggy. You can lift the roll cage and see 2 seats in the vehicle, which is really fun for a toy this size. The seats actually become Rollbar's feet in robot mode. Now, Rollbar isn't the most limber fella, only his little fists can move in and out, though he can lunge fairly well, and he can also articulate well enough to sit in Scavenger's vehicle mode as a little driver. Isn't that cute? The Minicons that come with Optimus and Megatron are some of my favorites. Sparkplug is a really solid little car Minicon and perfectly matches Prime's vibes. Megatron Megatron's partner is Leader 1, which is a funny name if you know the lore. The name Leader 1 is from GoBots, the original competitor to Transformers, and Leader 1 is specifically the Optimus Prime of that show, leading the heroic Guardians. Obviously, Transformers fared better in the market, and Hasbro eventually just straight out became the owners of the brand when they bought Tonka. I've always thought that Megatron enslaving a Minicon named after the leader of the GoBot heroes was kind of a diss towards GoBots, because I remember it being kind of normal to make fun of GoBots back then, kind of as a dated beef between the 80s brands living on into the early 2000s. Leader 1 was always one of my favorites though. I love the visor plus faceplate combo, and Megatron can use him as a blaster, which I somehow never realized as a kid. Unicron was the crown jewel of the Armada line, being the first true Unicron figure and just being an amazing toy overall. Unicron's Minicon is Dead End, who turns into a moon for Unicron. This is silly because this would mean Dead End is gigantic compared to a normal Minicon, but I love this little ball. I probably owe this man for my later love of Bakugan. When Armada ended, Minicons didn't just disappear. They became way less of a focus for sure, but they still existed throughout the Unicron trilogy. For Energon, a bunch of late Armada repaints like Sideways and Scavenger made it into the Energon toy line as new characters Rapid Run and Treadbolt. Ultra Magnus was a repaint of Overload, packaged with a repaint of the Requiem Blaster Minicons. Unicron got an amazing black and orange repaint, and I have always loved this repaint of Tidal Wave. The lightning and green translucent plastic just does it for me, man. There were also a few unique Minicons introduced as well, the first being the Star Saber, which was actually slightly remolded and renamed the Energon Saber. Technically, it was just Runway who got remolded. His jet snoot is way more flat and has serrated edges, giving the Saber mode sort of a hacksaw look. Completely new Minicons include a new version of my beloved Street Action team, and look how they massacred my boys. Just kidding, they're not that bad, and they still turn into weird vehicles. Like Grindor is now this little hovercraft instead of a skateboard, and SureShock now turns into an ATV instead of a Vespa. Highwire is still a bike, though he looks more like a motocross bike now. Their combined form Perceptor is pretty cool. I dig the proportions on him, and if I wasn't so nostalgia blinded by the original, I might like this one more. Highwire is really interesting because an upscaled version of him was made along with an action figure of the main human character from Energon, Kicker. This may be the only Minicon that's ever had an upscaled figure like this. Sort of a reverse Legion class situation. The only other new Minicon in the line is the one that comes with Omega Supreme, the flagship toy of the line that could combine with Optimus Prime. I always wanted Omega Supreme. He just looked cool as hell, and he also had a Minicon. This Minicon is just called Omega, and it's another Headmaster situation. You could argue he's not a true Minicon because he doesn't seem to have a Power Links port, but I think he still counts. The series after Energon was called Transformers Cybertron and revisited Minicons in much bigger ways. The first ever Cybertron toy I found was Vector Prime, who to my surprise had his own Minicon Safeguard. Safeguard is an awesome little guy, and Vector Prime is one of my favorite toys from Cybertron. There were a bunch of Minicon repaints, and instead of doing teams of 3, the Minicons were released in battle packs featuring an Autobot and Decepticon Minicon, which is actually unique because usually Minicons have their own faction logo only. Some traditional Minicon 3 packs made it into the line as well. The Recon team was the main Minicon team of the show, and I love this set. A recognizable name from Armada, Jolt, makes an appearance here. In Armada, he was Hotshot's partner Minicon, but now he rolls with 6-speed and Reverb. Reverb might be my favorite from the set. He turns into a little truck, and he even has a little truck bed. There was also a 3-pack featuring a remolded Long Arm and 2 new Minicons named Deep Dive and Overcast. Deep Dive turns into a submarine, which is such an awesome and rare alt mode. These Minicons are part of the Gigantion Minicon team. In the show, Gigantion is a planet where Transformers have grown to massive proportions, so they all have Minicons to assist them with the small stuff. There's only 3 of these Gigantion characters. Quickmix is the smallest and comes with Strip Mine, who turns into this laser thing. The Decepticon Menasor comes with Minicon Heavy Load, a little dump truck dude. They have an interesting combination where you can fit heavy load into the front of Menasor's vehicle mode to form kind of a cowcatcher. Again, one of the big characters in the line, Metroxplex, also came with a Minicon named Drillbit, presumably a different Drillbit from the Armada one, but who knows. Drillbit is actually based on the Leader 1 design. It isn't a remold, it's just more of reusing the same transformation scheme. I'm now realizing almost all of the Cybertron figures I had either were Minicons or included Minicons. Soundwave came with Laserbeak, who is called a Minicon by the packaging, but like the Omega Minicon, he has no Power Links ports or even a Minicon insignia. But he was cool as hell though, so I'll give him a pass. He's a Minicon. Minicons didn't end with the Unicron trilogy though. The Classics line, which came after Cybertron, brought 6 new 3-packs of Minicons, with some of the most unique Minicons ever. Minicon fans really entered their beast era with this line, with all manners of animals from mammals to birds to dinosaurs, and there's even a dragon. I don't know why they got so creative for this line, but I'm happy. There's a little T-Rex with a Power Links port. While there are some awesome animal guys like Dreadwing, who turns into an eagle, there are also plenty of cool vehicle transformers like Grindor, who transforms into a monster truck styled like Gravedigger, or Dirt Rocket, a Minicon that turns into a speedier racing motorcycle. I also really like this tiger dude named Snarl. This tiger mold is just really cute to me, and the jaw even articulates. There's also the plainly named Firebot that appears to have the same fire truck mode that Sentinel Prime in Dark of the Moon would later have. After that, in the Universe line of toys, a new version of Hotshot and Jolt were made in honor of Armada. This version of Jolt is an okay remake, though he feels slightly redesigned. There were even more repaints put out, and many of them were in this dope 12-pack of Minicons. And even more Minicons were made as partners for Power Core Combiner Transformers, specifically the actual core robots. These Minicons went full Target Master, only having robot modes and weapon modes. These guys are cool, and I like the use of clear plastic, but I've never been big into little guys that only turn into weapons. Some of them have good names like Chopster or Chainclaw though. 5 years later, we would finally get new Minicons in the Generations line as part of the Thrilling 30 Anniversary line. The Assault Minicon team is another 3-pack, just like the Armada days. These Minicons are interesting because their proportions are a lot more clean than the original Minicons, and they almost look like they're from Transformers Prime with the way their faces are designed. These Minicons can combine into one large robot named Centuritron. I can't help but feel this character is a reference to Perceptor, since most Minicons don't combine into larger robots like this. I think it's kind of cool that they made a whole new character for this team rather than remaking the Street Action team, and to my knowledge this was the last set of truly new Minicons that have been released. At least until Transformers Legacy, a toy line introduced in 2022 to replace the War for Cybertron block of toy lines. New versions of Transformers Armada toys were being actively remade, starting with the Armada Starscream, though there is a huge issue with these remake toys. While the Armada remakes are absolutely fantastic figures and worthy modern remakes of famously unarticulated toys, they don't include a key component, which is the Minicons. So far, Hasbro has only put out 2 Minicons to go with their 7 Armada remakes, not counting repaints. I do own one of them, Jolt, who came with the Power Links repaint of Hotshot. This Jolt figure gives me so many mixed emotions. The actual toy is a truly amazing remake and perfectly captures Jolt from the show, but this toy also made me realize that these Minicons are so integral to my enjoyment of the Armada toys and their remakes. Even an amazing figure like Armada Optimus Prime still feels incomplete to me without his partner Sparkplug. It also really frustrates me that larger toys like Optimus and Tidal Wave don't have Minicons, given their sizes and prices. Tidal Wave is especially maddening to me because he is a Titan class. That is the biggest class of Transformers you can get. It is literally $200, and he still doesn't have a tiny extra plane transformer named Ramjet. What makes this even worse is that the newly announced Age of the Primes Titan class star Optimus Prime, which is at a new, lower price of $150 since he's smaller than the past Titan class toys, this new Prime comes with a tiny hot rod. He literally comes with a Minicon sized toy and costs $50 less than Tidal Wave, who did not have his Minicon. I can only assume this is standard corporate greed at work, because I'm sure the toy designers care as much as I do about the Minicons, given their importance in Armada, both the show and the toy line. And before you jump in the comments and yell at me, I'm well aware that budgets are a thing when it comes to designing toys and dictates a lot of choices, but you are absolutely kidding yourself if you think there isn't an element of greed when it comes to stuff like the Tidal Wave and Optimus Prime releases. At this point, I'm just begging for a multi-pack. Put 3 of the Minicons in a deluxe class box or something, or just give me a big multi-pack, please. Either way, stop holding my weird little guys hostage, damn it. It's confusing. And hey, is this me whining about toys? Definitely. And I'm self-aware to know that it's a bit lame, but this stuff really does matter to me. And the choices they've made so far with the Armada toys doesn't make any sense to me logically. And I know many other fans that feel the exact same way. So yeah, that's my video on Minicons, an amazing addition to the Transformers lore, and an amazing value added to the Transformers Armada toy line. If you like this video and want to see more like it, check out my Transformers playlist. And if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I would very much appreciate it. And if you'd like to support me further, I have YouTube memberships and a Patreon available. Both platforms give you the same thing: access to my supporter-only Discord, where we have monthly movie, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider watch parties. Next month's movie is Blade on April 4th, 2025 at 6 p.m. EST. This week, we're watching 5 episodes of the Super Sentai show Osama Sentai King Oger on Friday, March 21st at 5 p.m. EST. And next week on Friday, March 28th at 5 p.m. EST, we're watching 5 episodes of Kamen Rider Geats. If any of that interests you, please consider joining. We're building an awesome community of people with diverse, but ultimately mega nerdy interests. Alright y'all, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.